There was a wedding ring sitting next to the mustard. No note. No explanation. Just her ring, cold, resting against the glass jar like it had something to say. I stared at it for what? 10 full minutes? Maybe more. I don't even remember opening the fridge. I'd come in to grab the orange juice. I hadn't slept. I hadn't eaten. The only thing keeping me upright was caffeine and habit. And now, suddenly, my marriage was shelved next to condiments. That's how it started. No dramatic text. No screaming fight. Just that stupid ring sitting between pickles and disappointment. When I asked her about it, hours later, she didn't look up from her phone. She just said, "I needed space." "From your ring?" I asked. She shrugged. "From everything." That night, she didn't come to bed. She didn't sleep on the couch either. She left. She took one overnight bag and her favorite coat, the one I bought her in Asheville for our anniversary, and walked out without telling me where she was going. No kiss, no "I love you," no "I'll call." Just the sound of the door clicking shut. Like punctuation. Like the end of a sentence I never got to read. I didn't panic at first. I mean, maybe she needed air. We've all thought about running away from our lives sometimes, haven't we? But by the third night, when she still hadn't come back, when she turned off her location sharing and posted a sunset photo captioned, "Healing begins where expectations end," I felt it. That dull, collapsing feeling in my stomach. She wasn't on a walk. She was somewhere planning her escape. I texted. She replied, 3 hours later, with 7 words. "I want to live for myself. Without you." No emotion. No punctuation. Not even my name. And I stared at that text like it was written in a language I used to know, but forgot. I kept reading it, trying to find a crack. A clue. A way to make it untrue. I thought about everything I gave up for her. The job transfer I declined. The trip to Italy we postponed for the right time. The years I paid all the bills while she rebuilt her confidence. And I thought about that ring. In the fridge. Like a joke. Like a message, "You're cold now." Forgotten. Stored away. So I sent one text back. Only 12 words. "Not in my house. And not on my dime. Have fun." And that's when the unraveling really began. Because apparently, I wasn't supposed to say that. Apparently, I was supposed to keep paying. Keep begging. Keep being the safety net while she flew into someone else's arms behind my back. But I'd already seen enough. I already knew there was someone else. I just didn't realize who it was. Not yet. But when I did, it would turn everything upside down. Even her friends stopped defending her after that. The next morning, I didn't check my phone first thing. That used to be her habit. She'd wake up, check messages, sip coffee, then read that horoscope app she swore by. Now it was just me. Silence. Empty coffee cup. Cold side of the bed. I walked into her studio like I was stepping into a museum. She'd been gone 4 days. Still no mention of when she was coming back. I wasn't even sure she planned to. But something had been bothering me. Something weird about our shared calendars. We both had access to a family iCloud calendar. It was mostly used for dentist appointments, work schedules, reminders like buy paper towels or pick up dry cleaning. Nothing dramatic. Until now. There was an event on there I hadn't seen before. It was labeled Interview J.M. 11 a.m. Saturday. Except I wasn't interviewing anywhere, and neither was she. And the initials, J.M. Not familiar. I opened it. There was a location tagged, a hotel conference room. Not a company. Not an agency. Just a room. So I did what any paranoid husband who just got emotionally curb-stomped would do. I drove there. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't even shower. Just threw on a hoodie, grabbed her spare car key from the junk drawer, and headed out. I got there early. Sat in my car. Waited. She showed up exactly at 10:52 a.m. Her hair was straightened. Full makeup. Lipstick I hadn't seen before. She was wearing the same red jacket she wore on our engagement weekend. I remember because she spilled hot chocolate on it, and I paid $46 to get it cleaned. It still had that little stain under the button. But she wasn't alone. He got out of the car first. Taller than me. Beard. Dressed too nicely for someone just helping a friend heal. They walked in together, laughing. His hand grazed her back. She didn't flinch. She leaned into it. That was all I needed. She never even looked around. Never even thought I might show up. That's how confident she was that I wouldn't ask questions. I sat in my car, fists clenched around the steering wheel, until I realized I was starting to cry. Not a dramatic, Hollywood cry. Just that dumb, embarrassing silent kind, where your face leaks and your body doesn't even notice. I didn't confront her. Not then. I waited. When she came home that night, acting like she'd been at some yoga retreat, I asked how her day went. She said, quiet. Just needed to be alone. Then she kissed my cheek and poured herself a glass of wine like she hadn't just been on a date with a man I'd never met. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I started playing dumb. Because now I wasn't looking for an apology. I was building a case. And what I found next, it made me realize this J.M. wasn't new. He was already in our lives. He had been in our lives. And somehow, I was the only one who hadn't seen it. It was a group photo. That's what did it. A stupid photo from 2 summers ago, taken at my cousin Rachel's 4th of July cookout. I wasn't even looking for anything. I was scrolling my cloud archive, trying to find a receipt for our broken dishwasher. And there it was. Everyone was holding sparklers, drunk smiles, plastic chairs, too many red Solo cups. She and I were in the front row, arms around each other. Back then, I still believed we were solid. I remember thinking that night, God, I hope this lasts forever. But it was the guy in the back corner that caught my eye. Half-shadowed, holding a beer, wearing a baseball cap. His face was blurry, caught mid-laugh, but something about him screamed familiarity. Like when you see an actor in a commercial and can't quite place the movie he was in. So I zoomed in, enhanced the contrast, downloaded it to my laptop, and sharpened it with some free photo app. And my blood went ice cold. It was him, the same man from the hotel, the J.M. from the calendar. Except back then, I remembered him being introduced as a friend of Rachel's boyfriend. I didn't even learn his name that day. He didn't stay long. Just showed up, drank a few beers, left early. I even remember joking to Rachel, that guy looked like he didn't want to be here. And now? Now he's in secret hotel meetups with my wife. Which means this didn't start last week. Or even last month. This went way further back. I started combing through old texts. Not hers. She deleted most of her history. But mine? I never delete anything. I found one from a year ago, when she asked if I could drop off a forgotten jacket at some co-working space downtown. She claimed she left it during a freelance meeting. I remember it being odd. She was never into those shared offices. She preferred working from cafes or home. But now I realized, that jacket was the same one she wore to the hotel. She was seeing him even then. And I'd been enabling it. Paying for her Uber rides. Transferring money for her networking coffees. Listening to her vent about how burned out she was. I wasn't her husband. I was her sponsor. I stared at that photo for a long time, wondering if I'd ever seen her real face again since that night. Every moment since then had felt like a shadow. A performance. Like she was playing the part of wife, until she figured out how to exit without setting off alarms. But here's the thing. She had no idea I'd put it all together. Not yet. And I wasn't going to confront her with rage or emotion. I was going to flip the entire game. Because I finally understood what she wanted. Freedom, funded. But what she was about to get was independence, unpaid. And it would start with a simple visit to someone she never thought I'd speak to. J.M.'s ex-girlfriend. Her name was Mallory, and I wasn't even sure she'd respond when I messaged her. I found her through an old tagged photo on J.M.'s Instagram, one he forgot to delete, apparently. They'd been together for over 5 years, according to her account. No wedding, but close. Shared lease. Shared dog. She stopped posting about him a little over a year ago. That should have been the end. But I had a suspicion. A sick one. I messaged her with a fake name at first. Said I was doing research. I know. Pathetic. But I didn't know how else to open the conversation. She ignored me. Until I sent one line that made her reply instantly. I think he's been sleeping with my wife. We met 2 days later at a small coffee shop off 4th and Mayfield. Neutral territory. She showed up in sweats. No makeup. Clearly not there to impress. Just to finally unload something that had been eating her alive. And she knew. Not just about the affair. She knew about my wife. Her full name. Her job. Her car. Her favorite wine. She even described our house. She'd seen photos. J.M. apparently bragged to her that he was seeing someone married. Said it made him feel untouchable. And get this, the real reason Mallory broke up with him wasn't the cheating. It was the money. He'd been asking her to co-sign a business loan for months. Said he had a plan to open a private studio space, some luxury creative thing. And when she refused, he told her he'd find someone else who believed in him. I almost laughed, because now I realized who that someone else was. My wife had drained nearly $12,000 from our joint account over the last 9 months for art projects and equipment upgrades. Yeah, turns out, she was bankrolling her boyfriend's midlife startup fantasy. Mallory looked at me across the table and said, I know this is hard, but you should know. He thinks he's already won. He says your wife is getting ready to move in with him. Full time. That was the moment something cracked. Because this wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was theft. It was premeditated. And worst of all, it was smug. They were playing me like a background character in my own life. I was the funding, the furniture, the fool, but no more. I thanked Mallory, asked if she had any screenshots. She did. More than I expected. Texts, emails, a Dropbox link with photos I didn't want to see, but saved anyway. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I opened a new bank account, in my name only, and I moved everything. Savings, paycheck deposits, retirement funds. I froze the joint credit card, canceled the authorized user access. I even shut down the backup card I'd forgotten she had in her wallet. When she called me that night, furious because her Amazon order got declined, I just told her, calmly, maybe it's time you live for yourself. Financially too. She hung up on me. The next morning, I found her car parked across the street. She hadn't even knocked on the door. She was sitting inside, staring at the house like it belonged to a stranger. And for the first time, I kind of hoped she felt that way, because she was about to find out just how much she'd lost. She knocked at 6:12 a.m., not like someone visiting, like someone trying to reclaim. One hand, sharp, repetitive. I watched her through the peephole for nearly 30 seconds before I opened the door. She looked rough, hair tied back like she hadn't slept, wearing the hoodie I'd bought her in Maine. No bag, no makeup, just anger, confusion, and something else I couldn't name. Maybe fear. She didn't say hello. Her first words were, "Did you cancel my card?" I didn't answer. I just stepped aside and let her walk in. She looked around the house like she expected something to be missing. Or someone. Maybe she thought I'd gone full scorched earth and thrown out all her things. I didn't. I wanted her to see what she'd walked away from. Not physically. Psychologically. She dropped her keys on the counter, crossed her arms, said, "We need to talk." I said, "Good. But first, I need you to read this." I handed her a single page, typed, double-spaced, simple. It wasn't legal. Not yet. It was something I drafted myself, then had a friend of mine, a divorce paralegal, look over to make sure it sounded official. It was a statement of separation. Not binding. Not a contract. Just acknowledgement. That she was voluntarily living apart. That she'd used shared funds for personal expenditures. That she'd agreed not to access the joint account again. It even included a line about J.M. by name, stating she'd begun a non-disclosed personal relationship with him during the marriage. She read it twice, then laughed. "You think I'm signing this?" I didn't blink. "If you want to stay here another night, under my roof, you sign it." She stared at me like I was a stranger. And for a moment, I think she actually didn't know who I was anymore. Because this wasn't the version of me she was used to. This wasn't the husband who tiptoed around her moods or begged to be let back into her good graces. This was someone who finally saw things clearly. She sat down, hard, like her knees gave out beneath her. The silence dragged. I let it. I didn't offer her water. I didn't ask how her week had been. I just stood there, watching the gears grind behind her eyes. Finally, she said, "You've been spying on me?" I said, "No. You were just loud enough for the truth to echo." She signed it. Didn't even ask for a pen. She had one in her purse. Like she'd expected something like this. Maybe even rehearsed it. She slid the paper back across the table and said, "Now what?" I said, "Now, we live like roommates until the paperwork's official." She blinked. "You're actually divorcing me?" That's when I smiled. "For real. Not in my house. Not on my dime. Not as your husband." Her face cracked, just for a second. I saw it. The mask slipped. And underneath wasn't rage, it was panic. Because she realized something crucial. I wasn't chasing her anymore. And worse, someone else was going to have to pay for her freedom. She started being nice. That's how I knew something was coming. Not the fake, overcompensating kind of nice. No, she played it smarter than that. She started small, folding laundry that wasn't hers, refilling the coffee machine, leaving notes on the fridge like we were back in college again. "Don't forget your jacket," smiley face. And "Good luck today, love." She even started calling me babe again. Casually. Softly. Just once or twice a day. as if her mouth had slipped out of habit. But I knew better. This wasn't affection. This was strategy. Because just 5 days earlier, I'd made it clear, we were done. I was moving toward divorce. She'd signed the acknowledgement. She was out of our finances. She'd burned the bridge. But now, suddenly, she was humming in the kitchen, offering to make dinner, asking how my day was. Like I was supposed to forget I'd seen texts between her and another man talking about starting over, somewhere warm. I didn't trust it, but I played along, because I needed to see what her angle was. I didn't have to wait long. One night, she came into my room. Not our room, my room. I'd moved into the guest bedroom after the separation agreement. I kept the door shut. No contact unless necessary. She knocked gently and stood in the doorway in her old sleep shirt. The one she used to wear when we'd lie on the couch and binge documentaries until we passed out. She looked almost embarrassed. "Can I talk to you?" she asked. I nodded, slowly. She sat on the edge of the bed, not close. Not far. Just enough for the air between us to feel dense. "I've been thinking," she said. "About what I said. About wanting to live for myself." I stayed quiet. Let her talk. I wasn't trying to hurt you. I felt like I was suffocating. Like I'd become someone's wife and forgotten who I was. But when you pushed me out, when you cut me off, I realized I went too far. Maybe I was just scared. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. Real ones, maybe. Or maybe she'd practiced. I couldn't tell anymore. "I don't want to lose you," she whispered. And for a moment, I swear, my body almost forgot everything. The pain, the hotel, the deleted texts, the $12,000, the silence. All of it blurred under the weight of her voice. That's how dangerous she was. She wasn't trying to come back because she loved me. She was trying to reset the narrative, to rewrite the story before the ink dried. I asked her, gently, "Did you tell him the same thing?" She blinked. Then she stood up. Her tears disappeared like fog burning off in the sun. "I knew you'd use that against me," she snapped. "I try to be honest, and you just throw it in my face." And just like that, the mask slipped again. Because her apology was never for me. It was an audition, and I didn't clap. She stormed out. Later that night, I found my toothbrush in the trash. My charger missing. My shirts mixed in with her laundry, shrunken and wrinkled. Subtle sabotage. She'd moved from manipulation to psychological warfare. Because if she couldn't win me back, she'd try to make me miserable enough to surrender. But she didn't know something crucial. I wasn't miserable anymore. I was watching, and I was almost ready. I didn't tell her the papers were coming. No warnings. No, we need to talk. No dramatic build-up. I just handed them to the courier, signed and sealed, and waited. It was a Wednesday. I chose Wednesday for a reason. Middle of the week, middle of the day, right when she'd be least prepared. No distractions. No excuses. No rehearsed responses. I wanted the truth to hit her with full clarity. But I didn't give them to her myself. That would have been too easy. I let Mallory do it. Yeah, Mallory, J.M. SX. The one who'd met me for coffee. The one who'd warned me that he always played both sides. Turns out, she still had a few unresolved feelings too. We coordinated it. She showed up on our doorstep, dressed like a professional, with a manila envelope in hand. I watched from the kitchen window. My wife opened the door and froze. She tried to shut it. Mallory blocked it with her foot. I couldn't hear their voices, but I didn't need to. Mallory handed her the envelope, said something short and final, then turned and walked away like a ghost dropping off karma. My wife didn't open the envelope at first. She stood there in the doorway for a long time, holding it like it might explode. When she finally walked in, her face was unreadable, pale, almost dazed. She set the envelope on the table. Quiet. Then, in the calmest voice I'd ever heard from her, she said, "You had her deliver my divorce papers?" I nodded. She stared at me. "You're not even going to ask me why I did what I did." I looked at her and said, "I already know. You wanted something else. I just made it easier for you to get it." Her lip trembled. She wanted to argue, to fight, to guilt me into some messy conversation full of crying and blame and half-truths. But I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I just kept doing the dishes like we were discussing the weather. That's what finally broke her. Not the papers. The silence. The realization that I wasn't going to chase her anymore. That I wasn't going to raise my voice or beg for closure. That she had become the stranger now. She whispered, "You don't love me anymore." I didn't answer. She left the envelope untouched on the table for hours. I went to bed before her. When I woke up, she was gone. So was the envelope. And something else I hadn't expected. The ring. She'd taken it from the fridge and left it on my nightstand. No note this time. No emoji. Just metal and silence. And for the first time since this all started, I actually felt free. It was a Saturday, nearly a year later, when she came back. I was planting new rose bushes in the front yard. Yeah, I garden now. Not because I suddenly became outdoorsy, but because there's something healing about putting your hands in the dirt and creating something that can't lie to you. Her car pulled up slow. Same make, different color. Least, probably. She stepped out like she hadn't aged a day, but something in her posture had changed, like she was carrying more than she let on. She hesitated near the walkway, clutching a small white envelope in her hand. Classic move. Written words, easier than face-to-face truth. I didn't say anything. I just kept digging. But she didn't talk to me. Because someone else answered the door. Claire. She stepped out in her paint-stained jeans, holding a mug that said burnt toast, not bridges. A joke we came up with during one of our late-night breakfasts after I met her in an adult art class 5 months earlier. Claire wasn't flashy. She wasn't dramatic. She never played games. She liked open windows, bad puns, and old music. The first time I told her the story of the fridge ring, she didn't laugh or gasp. She just said, "Wow, I bet that mustard never recovered." And now here she was, meeting the ghost of my past, calm as ever. My ex froze when she saw Claire. I don't think she expected anyone else to be there. She looked from Claire to me, and for the first time in a very, very long time, she looked small. I stood up and wiped my hands on my jeans. Walked over. She held out the envelope with this almost trembly hand, like she didn't know what to say anymore. I didn't take it. Claire did. "Thanks," she said gently. "We'll make sure it gets recycled." The ex opened her mouth, closed it, took a slow breath, then said the words I never thought I'd hear from her. "I'm sorry. Not for show. Not for leverage. Just soft. Real." I nodded. "I know." She turned, walked back to her car, didn't look back. And that was it. No revenge. No dramatic meltdown. Just an ending. Clean. Quiet. Later that night, Claire found the envelope still unopened on the counter. Inside was a photo of me and my ex from years ago, with a handwritten line on the back. "I didn't deserve the version of you I got." She was right. But the truth is, I didn't deserve that version of me either. The one who begged, who broke, who thought survival meant silence. That version's gone now, replaced by someone stronger. Someone who plants things. Someone who smiles more. Someone who finally learned that living for yourself doesn't mean betraying the people who love you. It means showing up fully. And this time, I showed up for myself.